Welcome, everybody, to Breaking the Mold, which is the story of how two non-technical women hack their way into cyber careers. So those two women, again, are myself, Meryl Vernon. I'm actually a principal application security architect now. That promotion was recent, so that's super fabulous. And I'm joined by the fabulous and lovely Mackenzie Wartenberger.
Hi guys, I'm Mac Wertenberger. I'm a security architect also at Acquia, and I specialize in zero trust security, the oft mysterious world. We'll get into that a little bit more later.
Yeah, no one knows what that means, including Mac. No, I'm
Nope.
kidding. Mac, one of the few people who does know what that means. Oh, okay. So this was our intro slide. Okay, great. So why Mac and I wanted to come together to give this talk today? Mostly because there are a few key problems facing those of us seeking to enter into cyber, right? Those of you trying to break into this field. And one of those problems is that many of us arrive non-technical, right? You're like us at one point. You were non-technical when you arrive at the point in life where you're interested in a cyber career, mostly because we lack the confidence in ourselves and our own abilities to do technical things. So we tend to gravitate towards other careers first that are less technical, where we're not as reliant on those skills.
There's also a lot of false, conflicting, and confusing information out there for people that are looking to break into cybersecurity. Do you need to go the boot camp route? Do you get something adjacent to cyber and try to pivot in? It can be a really tough landscape to navigate. So we wanted to identify some of the successful strategies we use to get into our current roles so that hopefully you can learn how to value prop yourselves and follow a similar path.
Yeah. Lastly, there are very few successful examples to follow of people who have come from non-technical places and broke their way in and succeeded within cyber. And, we all need to see it to be it. Some of us need to know that others have come before us and done what we hope to achieve to know that it's possible. So that's what we're here to do for you today. Which brings me to my next point. So if Mac and I both have these fabulous, architect careers, we're both architects, she works in things no one understands, I work in things no one understands, everyone thinks purple teaming's more pen testing, then why are we here to give this talk to you about being non-technical? Well, what you may not know, if you do know my story, then great, the social media efforts are working. Yay. But if you don't, then you'll probably be shocked to hear that almost 5 years ago to the day, I broke into cyber completely cold with absolutely no technical skills whatsoever. I didn't even know what an IP address was or what it's used for. And beyond that, I didn't know anything about the cyber or technology fields, right? I didn't know what the verticals were, what the roles were, what I could hope to achieve, where I could hope to go. All I knew was that I wanted to join this big, dark, abstract thing that nobody knew anything about, but where the one thing we all do know is they don't hand out entry-level opportunities like candy. So I went to the one place where they do hand out mid-level management training like candy. I went and joined the military. And I talked my way into the cyber unit there. Took 5 months of networking to get my way from the PA unit to the cyber unit, but I did it. And then outside of that, I leveraged that into my first private cyber role in the form of a risk analyst position. So I grew up in risk, which was a great place to start because it is one of the most administrative functions you can do in cyber. It's a great place to get slow exposure to a lot of the technical things that we do. And from there, I leveraged my way into a junior pen testing role about 4 months into the risk job. And then a year from there, I broke on to the Zoom Red team, which was a wonderful place to learn more tradecraft and learn from some of the big juicy people doing all the cool things. And then throughout my pen testing journey, I realized that traditional models of offensive security seemed to be broken because I was doing my job, but I wasn't actually affecting any change or helping anyone at my organization. And that sucked. So I actually decided I would just pioneer my own niche in cyber called purple teaming, which you may have heard of. And now I lead purple teams. I promote collaborative cybersecurity practices as a principal, leading entire practices within security. But my journey, how I got here today, is not the same as Max. Max, how did you do it?
Yeah, it's amazing what Meryl's been able to do in a short amount of time. And if you could have come into cyber with an even less technical background than Meryl, it was probably me. I started my career, the first 13 years of my working life out of college, as a college athletics coach. So track and field and cross country. Did that right after school, really knew nothing else. I was that person that had to hand off my iPhone to get an update to run. Didn't know anything. But I was working this job that was really, really hard, a little burnout, the work environments, like too many demands on my time, too little balance between my work life and everything else. And I kept just putting more and more of myself in. And I think we all can realize and feel that vibe of I just wasn't working anymore. I
Bad
wasn't
energy
happy.
investment. Yeah.
I wasn't happy. And because I wasn't happy, I wasn't doing the job particularly well. So in 2021, I made the really tough decision to pivot away from the only thing that I'd ever done. I had no idea what I was going to do. So midlife career pivot, pretty scary. Spent a lot of time kind of sad on the couch, watching a lot of the Vampire Diaries and generally feeling kind of pathetic. Yeah, gotta love it. I mean, I was recharging my batteries and taking care of myself. Right, that too. You know, his met happened one day. I'm floating in a pool after a family wedding, and I see a friend, and we start talking about all kinds of things. And this person works in cyber, and they're a big cyber evangelist. Questions. And what I realized in that short conversation is that cyber sounded really, really cool. It was interesting. It allowed a lot of flexibility. The pay was great. And what you were doing was important. We're securing our companies, or even in Acquia's case, the nation's infrastructure, and doing a job that really matters. So I started to dig in and look at, how can I get into this space? I was in the place that a lot of us are in right now, where it's like, this seems cool, but how do I get a boot in that door? I reached out. Oh, I see the slacks that my audio is coming in and out, so I'll try to speak a little louder and go a little slower. I reached out to a pretty limited network and was lucky to find an apprenticeship. So going from a full-time person with full-time pay, my only option to get in was find an apprenticeship, get an internship part-time. And Acquia was luckily launching their Acquia Accelerator program, which is geared at bringing people with no technical backgrounds in. And I got to be the kind of canary in the mine. We didn't really know if it was going to work, but as long as I was still chirping, like, we were doing okay. That apprenticeship started in governance, risk, and compliance, so GRC. So not really a technical cyber field, but I was able to kind of figure out the landscape. And after 6 months, was offered the opportunity to become a full-time employee, but not in GRC, in Zero Trust. And so what is Zero Trust? How do you pivot into this sort of nebulous kind of loosey-goosey framework where, you don't trust anything? I jumped at the chance. I said, I want to do this. I want to get into a more technical role. I want to flex my muscles a bit. And so I decided I was going to become, a subject matter expert in Zero Trust. Dug in, skilled into this vertical, and now I lead or help lead a team of technical and non-technical folks that are looking to implement Zero Trust for our customers. But man, those early days as a GRC apprentice, I was drinking from the fire hose, and I still didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I remember. So I remember the first day I met Mac. She was like 3 days new to our company, and we always invite the new apprentices to our offsites where the whole company gets together because we're fully remote. And we're all excited. We have this new apprentice incubator thing, and we're gonna meet the new apprentices. And I wanted to like get my claws in them, right? I was like, "Hi, I'm Meryl. Who are you? What do you like? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want to focus on?" And she was like, "Hi, what?"
I didn't even know what an ISO was. I didn't know what SBOM stood for. Meryl was like, "Do you want to be technical? Do you want to get into risk?" And I was like, I risk is a board game to me. I still don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I actually realized, Mackenzie was like, actually, I come from a non-technical place. Like, this is what I did very shortly ago, and this is what I'm trying now. And I don't know how this is going to go. I just know that I'm going to do it until I fail at it or I get great at it. And I was like, oh my God, you're exactly like me. We are the same. And I was like, I am going to make sure that you get through this thing and you don't go away, because I love people like you. But even after Matt graduated, right? She graduated her apprenticeship in a completely different function, GRC, then we actually threw her onto a team, Zero Trust. So Mac, tell us what it was like that first day.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is such an important topic. We hear a lot about imposter syndrome, I think, on LinkedIn, in our general ecosystem right now. But for those of us that are new, this is a real thing. Even after, like Meryl said, I got that full-time position, that kind of highly valued, treasured boot in the door. It was like, what am I doing here?
You get those pangs of anxiety just joining meetings and like, am I going to look stupid in front of these people today? Like,
why should I speak up? Should I even have this spot? Am I taking somebody's place that's could contribute more than I am. What happened was I had skills that had let me pivot in and helped me learn GRC in 6 months, had served me really well for 13 years as a competitive athletics coach. I wasn't using any of them. Imposter syndrome paralysis is like a real thing.
Yeah.
And it took some time.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this speaks back again to that confidence that we don't have within ourselves. So even if we make it to the job, then we feel like we don't deserve the job and we don't deserve to speak to our coworkers. And why will they pay attention to me? I'm the most junior here, age-wise, experience-wise. That's how I used to feel. I used to feel like the dumbest, most junior member on my team. But what you don't realize is there's a lot of value that you can contribute very early on to your team. So to illustrate this idea, we have for you the value curve, which is from the book, The First 90 Days. Highly recommend to anybody starting a new role or a new industry. It's basically a book that is for anyone starting something new, whether you just got promoted from associate to mid or senior to junior leadership, or you're a new C-level, or you're starting over in a new industry. It's a great way to start doing your situational awareness and figuring out where you can contribute very, very quickly so that your break-even point on this curve is reduced. So what it basically says is that in the early days, you're just sucking up resources from your company, right? They've hired you, but you're not performing for anyone. So your value actually goes down into the negative. You're there about a month. You figured out like how to log into your email. Hopefully you're onboarded. Hopefully you know who to go to with your questions at least. And after that, you kind of start to dip back upwards. You're like, okay, I kind of have my bearings. I know how to come in and find a thing and funnel that thing along and do my piece of the job. And eventually you learn and learn and learn and learn more, and you're able to actively contribute back. And once you're able to start providing more value than resources you suck up, that's your break-even point. That's point number 4, right? So that's when you're able to walk in on the job and confidently feel like I can walk in and do my job today. I'm no longer in training. But most of us, we're here, right? This is you. You are over here in that point where you're learning what to do and you're like, how do I contribute value? How do I add so that I am not just the most useless person on my team? And what you can do is you can inventory the skills that you've got and you can start adding value in other ways. You can lean on the soft skills that you have while you're ramping up on those technical, more hard skills that you need to support the job that you're going to later do. But there is an impact you can make almost immediately. And we're going to walk you through that next.
Yeah, if you take away anything from the rest of this talk or this talk in general, it's that, there's a way for everyone to contribute value, and it's just finding that out. So how do we do that? I was looking at our Slack channel for this summit earlier, and I saw mental health professionals, I saw a comms team member, a couple help desk folks, a criminal intelligence analyst, a business analyst, all of whom are trying to break into cyber. I see parents, I see baseball coaches. But it can be really intimidating to think about, what do we bring that helps us with cyber? And I think, for me, that was finding out what I could do. My dad was an 11th grade English teacher. So I grew up like with, the tightest editing requirements ever. I'd hand in something into class and I'd come back and be like, look, I got an A. And he'd be like, grammar mistake, run on sentence. That's a gerund. So, I did a lot of editing for my school publications in college. And so when I came in, I was like, I don't know what ISO means, and SBOM sounds really complicated, but I can edit your blogs. I can work on RFIs and RFQs, whatever you need, let me do that right away. And I was able to join our technical writing V team and have helped contribute some things that have won my company work, which is awesome. And I had that value before I was highly technical. Now I can contribute with my technical skills, but I was able to contribute with soft skills, non-technical skills as well. Those skills, even if they're fueling an adjacent role that maybe isn't cyber operations specific, can help you get yourself into a place where you're contributing value, and then you can make that pivot into big skills. So let's talk about inventorying those skills quickly.
Yeah, I agree, because the fact that Mac was able to contribute to the business in other areas while she ramped up on her apprenticeship was what gave them the confidence that if they threw her into something no one understood, like zero trust, that she would perform well there. She's like, throw me into something I don't know. I will not know that thing a week from now. My own mother who just turned 62, she was an apprentice 6 months ago. She just graduated the cohort as well. And she came in immediately from a 10-year, 20-plus-year career in banking and just started slaying it on the technical writing B team as well. Like she goes through all of our technical documentation. She took something that was 20 pages and 1,000 steps and made it 10 pages and like 50 steps. Like my mom can go in there and slay it. And everyone is so wildly impressed that she also got a full-time job at 62 years old. So we always say anyone can do this. And if you come to us, because right after the Diana initiative, we had, I had a biologist come to me, I had a nurse come to me and say, what about me? What about my skills? Where do my skills fit in? Can I contribute in cyber? And I was like, oh God, you guys make the best technical PMs. You guys do this. And so what we're going to walk everybody through who comes to us in an attempt to figure out where they belong in cyber is we're going to walk you through this exact same formula. We are going to say, let's identify your assets. Let's figure out, what do you have today that you can bring? Mac, are you good audio wise?
I'm good. Yeah. Thanks
Okay.
for stalling for me there. Sorry
Okay.
about the audio problems, y'all. AirPods, am I right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I'm seeing a ton of conversation in the Slack and talking about people that are bringing these really intense skill sets into prospective cyber roles.
Yeah.
Are you a teacher or a coach? Guess what? You're a leader. You can communicate, you can manage groups. You're ready to assist on a PM level role or start that journey. And then if that leads you into a cyber position, great. Are you an artist or a hobbyist? Do you love to tinker? Do you have an Etsy shop? You've got creative thinking skills. Take that and jump right into problem solving. These are direct correlations. Are you a parent? Here's a big one.
God.
Are you a parent? Are you a pet parent? You know what? Time management, training, patience, all of that is critical. Listening and having patience and empathy is such an undervalued asset to all operators, both looking to get into cybersecurity and looking to thrive in cybersecurity careers. It's unreal. Same thing for partners. There's a lot of inherent skills that we bring to the table, but when we have that nasty imposter syndrome, sometimes we forget to utilize even those most basic skills.
Yeah, you'll literally show up and just be like, I think I'm a super capable person, but I forgot everything that I know. And a lot of people come to us with their heads down, like, God, I'm just this useless teacher. Like, what can I do? And I'm like, oh my God, teachers have the hardest job. You have to make kids who don't want to know math. Like, you can make stakeholders who don't want to know cyber understand cyber and get buy-in for projects and help scale programs. Like, you guys have a skill we desperately need, because most people in cyber hate soft skills, let me tell you. So moving on. Let's say we've convinced you, we've brought you on over, we've convinced you to inventory your skills. You're going to figure out where they overlap, the things that you're capable of doing, the things that cyber needs, and find where they marry. But you're like, how does this translate to the role? Like, still, what makes a good cyber professional? What makes you good at cyber? Makes you one of those people that people go to when they need an SME in an area? And to answer that, I'm going to ask Mac a question, because one of the other things we share in common is that we speak multiple languages. Mackenzie, you speak fluent German. What, in your opinion, makes someone good at speaking a language? Is it how much vocab they know? Is it their accent? Is it conjugation and proper grammar? Like, what is it?
Right. It's kind of a combination of all of those, but it's easy to say, like, you've just got to sound very German or sound very French as you speak, Meryl.
Maybe. I would say that it's kind of a hybrid, like, partial answer to all of those things. But the truth is, no strength in any single one of those facets is going to make you good at it, right? You either have all the words but sound like a toddler, or you sound like you know what you're saying, but you're only listing off the days of the week, right? There really is no in between. So it's a lot the same with cyber skills. And I am going to ask Mackenzie another question, because she doesn't know my world very well, which I love. What skills do you think I needed to be good at pen testing? What skills do you think make you a good pen tester?
Well, I mean, you got to be able to do PowerShell and Python, and you've got to know all of Linux, like all of it.
Sure. Just all of it, just no Linux.
No Linux.
Linux. Okay.
Networking backwards and frontwards. Probably need to have memorized all of the NIST compliance framework, ISO 27001, have some solid CMMC background as well. Yeah,
I Googled
all the technical stuff.
Yeah, I Googled it this morning and it was like, you need, no joke, networking, just I guess all of it, cryptography, which I haven't used to this day and probably never will, things like Java, which don't really apply to the job unless you're you're hacking front end web applications. I don't know. It's just like bananas. It's bananas the amount of things out there people say you need to do my job. And that's true. You do need a certain set of hard skills to be successful at pen testing. Again, when I showed up at pen testing, I was a completely non-technical person, but I would not have been able to succeed within pen testing and continue to make giant leaps and work on red teams and go work for FANG-sized companies and do what I've done if I had not brought myself up to par with certain hard skills, right? You need shell languages. You need to understand operating systems. You need to understand ports and services and injections and dilibs and all these things. That's true. I have that today. I need that to do my job. But what a lot of people don't know is I entered the job solely on my soft skills. This is no joke. I was working in risk for 4 months, and they opened up the junior pen testing role. And this was truly a junior role. They were looking for no more than 2 years of experience, at minimum a Sec plus, some exposure to vulnerability assessment and things like that. And at the time, the most pen testy thing I had done was take findings my boss had gotten while pen testing and written the report for them. Just put the report together and make it look good. So when I came into cyber, period, like from marketing to risk, I got in on one key thing that I love doing that cyber people hate doing. And I don't know if you've met me, but that's public speaking. I love public speaking. It's my jam. So I was like, if you hire me, first of all, I have the academic aptitude. You know that I won't wash out of this material if you let me try. But second, I will go to every meeting. You train me on your projects and what you're doing, and I will go to every meeting, update every person, and be the face person for our department. You never have to waste time doing that again. And they were like, sold, we'll give you a chance. And I was like, great. When I got the jump to pen tester 4 months later, only 4 months later, that was not because I had Linux or cryptography or a programming language or anything. In fact, I said, I stand in front of you today, completely unskilled pen tester, but let me tell you what I do have. I know your strategy. I know your outlook. I know your people. I know your program. I know your objectives. I know the resources we have. I know all of these things. And I also gave a really scary answer. They asked me a really scary question. I gave an even scarier answer. So they were really assessing my creative problem solving. And I gave them an answer so scary. They said, oh God, we have to hire her because if we don't, she's going to go out there and work against us one day instead of working for us. So I was brought up on all the other things, bash and, protocols and all that. I learned that on the job. But what I showed up with was my tenacity, my proactive communication, my problem solving, and honestly, the ability to convey my skills and value prop myself in a way that told them I was solving their problems and how much money I was willing to accept to solve their problems. So this is what everyone else can do. So kind of bringing it home, looking at the commonalities between our journeys. Wait.
You were a theater kid and are big time on social media. I was a jock and am allergic to LinkedIn. Do we have commonalities?
I mean, we're both security architects now. So do we have commonalities? Do our journeys have anything in common? God, yes. Oh God, yes, they do. So what we want you to take away from the fact that we both started in completely different places, but ended up in roughly the same place, but within our own niches, is that a few commonalities. First of all, the power of soft skills, right? You need to be able to confidently ask questions and be willing to learn. I am not afraid to ask the stupid questions. I will be the stupid person in the room. I'll fall on that sword for everybody. And that came to me because one time we were in a meeting and my 20-year architect during my first job, that risk analyst job, I was like, I am so lost. I am so lost. I am writing down keywords as they're using them in context in a sentence so I can go Google that later. And he raises his hand and goes, yeah, I don't understand anything you're saying. I'm going to need you to back it up to the beginning and use different words. And I was like, okay, if he doesn't get it, then it's okay for me to not get it. And then I realized there is so much in cyber. There are so many verticals, and that's why we're all specialists within them, right? That it's not your job to know it all. So I'm no longer afraid to be the person to ask the stupid questions, and because that's how I learn. And if I don't know something today, I refuse to not know that thing a week from now, So you got to have that, and you got to also have the willingness to upskill. The soft skills will be enough to get you in. That's a great way to get in the door, but they are not enough to make a cyber career. In order to have a successful career, you do have to upskill in those technical areas. You have to look that uncomfy in the face and say, I am gonna make this thing my best friend until I own it, until I know it forwards, backwards, and upside down. That's what I did with AWS. Look at me now. So these are some of the things we recommend to get started right away.
Absolutely. Other things that we both kind of share that helped us get in, it was the ability to bring groups together, to multitask and manage that time, energy, and lead within our teams. you know, I've seen some questions come through about like, okay, I have some skills, but I'm still struggling with imposter syndrome. We were both pretty comfortable sitting with that while we upskilled and knowing that little bits of progress were going to be made. Meryl's 100% right. You've got to learn the skills at some point. You can't just be soft skills, but we were both really comfortable sitting with our soft skills for a little bit while we upskilled.
In fact, lean into that. You will never have that grace curve again. You will never, like, you can only milk the I am new and don't know what I'm talking about for so long. So milk it, because everyone's expectations of you are super low already. And then the next time you're the new person, you start up here instead of starting down here. So I milk my I'm new curve for like 3 to 6 months every time I start over somewhere new.
You can only not know what a STIG is for so long in GRC, and then you've got to start acting like you know what you're doing. So, you know, absolutely lean into that, and then, you know, find ways to add value while you can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Next, transferability. So both Mac and I, as we walked you through the formula earlier, sat down and found the skills we could transfer. I said, right, I don't have what they're looking for today, but what do I have that sets me apart? I have a lot that sets me apart. I think I'm a pretty bomb.com at most things that I attempt. But a lot of people don't have that natural attitude about them. So instead, I leaned on the objective things. I leaned on my academic aptitude. I said, listen, they let me into the cyber unit with no experience. Here's why. I got a 98 on my ASVAB on 2 hours of sleep because I have an infant and a toddler. You know, again, my love of public speaking. I will take this off your plate. I will take the thing that you fear and that you hate, and I will do it for you, and I will do it well, and you can just give that to me and never think about it again. That is a great way in an interview to get people picturing you on the job, taking stuff off their plate, making their day easier and better, and solving their problems. And then when you say, pay me this much money, they're like, sold. So again, not everyone has the tenacious approach that I have, but you still can learn to objectively value prop your skills. When I was interviewing for my pen tester job, I had to look my CRO, the chief risk officer of this company, in the face and say, sir, I know I'm not the pen tester today that you want, but this was when we all worked in the office, and I live in Reno, which is a very small city. So I knew there weren't many candidates I was competing with. I said, but you know that if you give me this chance, I will be that pen tester you were looking for 6 to 8 months from now. You know that I'm going to get there, and you know that I'm going to perform. And I come super cheap because I'm not that experienced yet. And he was like, you're right. And then I got the job, and the rest is history. So know what transfers, but most importantly, know how to value prop it with that cyber lens and speak to it in a way that contributes to the ops.
Right. You've got to have that competitor mindset. You know, coming from an athletics background, I was really used to losing. You know, you lose a lot more than you win in track, especially. There's one winner, right? I failed the CCZT, so CSA's new certified in zero trust cert, the very first time I took it. And instead of being crushed by that, I wrote a blog about it and then passed it 3 days later the next time. That can be really, really tough. I think a lot of us get scared into inaction by the what ifs. What if I fail? What if I don't add value right away? You've got to switch into that competitor mindset. Like, how many gamers are out there? You get the respawn. Like, failure is not a big deal. And I think something we both learned when we got into cyber is that failing once or twice is not that bad, as long as you use that failure to make you better. You know, it's going back to practice. It's going back into the workshop. It's learning that new skill and then upskilling. The very best operators I know, the very best technical cyber people I know, fail a lot and are really open about it. But it can feel like that's not the case when you're on the outside looking in. And then it's just that competitor mindset. It's knowing, like Meryl said, that I might not know this now, but I have the soft skills to put myself in a position to learn it. And we had a question in chat about what architecture really is. And I think it speaks really beautifully to what both of Meryl and I have been able to transfer in. It's the idea of knowing the technical enough, but also having the soft skills to see the big picture, to pick and choose and guide where our technical teams need to do things. So it's really marrying all of these transferable skills with the technical skills that we've added over time.
Yeah, if you're here, it's like acting. You're going to fail. You're going to fail over and over. I failed the Sec Plus the first time I took it, passed on the second. I failed my CEH twice. I had to pass it on the third attempt. So, you know, I don't know if I'm making it look easy over here, but it's really not that easy. But none of us are here trying to get jobs in cyber because we want the easy route, right? We think it looks super simple. We're here because we like big, sexy challenges. And that's what this is. So if you just accept that, if you just bake that in, you're like, God, I was expecting to fail 5 times by now, and I really haven't. So I know it's coming. I'm going to fail. So I was denied for a junior AppSec pen tester position a week before I was offered a position on the Zoom red team. Okay. So some people just can't see it and other people definitely will. But speaking of mindset, the last thing we're going to talk about is your mentality. You know, people, the adage goes like, your mindset affects your thoughts, affects your actions, affects how you live. And basically that's true. Like this is going to affect everything you do and how you do it. So when Mac and I came in, we didn't come in with like all these delusions of grandeur and stuff. And like, I'm going to make 6 figures 2 months from now. Like we had a very clear idea of what success looked like. Achieve this first step, achieve this first thing, learn that next skill, try to apply it somewhere else, learn another skill, try to look good for a junior promotion. Like that was very realistic. So when we were met with failures, they were small failures. And when we were met with success, they were worth celebrating, but we knew it was a milestone on the way of our journey. That and we both knew exactly where we wanted to go from where we started from. We both understood the journey and the challenges that we would be met with, because believe me, as millennial women working in cyber with like, at the time, 3 years of experience. When I met Mac, I had 3 years of experience in this field. You know, no one wants to hear from you. No one wants to hear from security in general. They definitely don't want to hear security from a millennial woman. Okay. So there are going to be challenges, but we knew we were going to come in and get what we wanted out of it and take it with us and move on. So it's very, very important to have that kind of locked in as you go about this journey.
Totally. And know that process of being committed and trying to get to where you want to go is going to take sacrifice. Meryl talked about like studying for some of these certs and some of these entry-level things after putting her 2 kids down. You know, for me, it looked like partnering with our current org to kind of work through the weeds of what does an accelerator apprenticeship look like and take a part-time gig where there was a lot of uncertainty. Is this going to lead to full-time? I don't know. But the sacrifice that involves, like studying for that first Security Plus. The Security Plus is a really scary cert for those of you who haven't taken it yet. It's not
a beginner cert. It's actually like a 2-year cert. It's rough.
Yeah, it's like, it's a mile wide and inch deep. That's what Meryl told me before I started studying, and very, very accurate. But that was a lot of late nights. It was a lot of putting in way more than the 20 hours a week that I was billable for my internship and leaning in, but we were both ready to do that. And I think another, and you know, it's funny talking about how Meryl was guiding me through preparing for the Sec Plus. Another huge piece is build a strong network. Know that you've got to have people that are in cyber, that aren't in cyber, that can support you, that can help make connections. There were some questions about like how I found the accelerator apprenticeship at Acquia. I knew like 3 people, but I was really into figuring out how I could serve those people, staying in touch with those people, pinging them, not just asking for a handout, but staying engaged in what they were doing. And one of those connections led to Acquia. And then that connection led to Meryl and has led to a lot of people that have been great. So curating that and then not being afraid of saying like, hey, I've got a unique perspective as an outsider. You know, neither Meryl or I are locked into, you know, this is the way it's done in cyber, because we don't have cyber degrees. We weren't those kids taking apart computers when we were 8. You know, we have a unique perspective, and instead of that being a liability, it's actually been a huge strength for our teams.
Yeah, I agree. As a risk analyst, one of the first contributions I made, I was revamping all of our standards and policies. And I was like, you know, our vulnerability assessment standard or management standard, we don't manage vulnerabilities, do we? Don't we kind of just assess them and it's their job to manage remediation timelines and all these things? Like, why do we do this? They're like, oh my God, you're right. Why are we on the hook for that? We rewrote it into like 1 page, done. And they were like, just took so much work off of our department. I was like, you're welcome, I guess. I just kind of thought that made sense. So you do bring a unique perspective. And something Mackenzie said that's very, very important, and we're almost at the end of our time. I know we only have 2 slides left. Is to network, not just vertically. Don't just network with the people who are where you want to be one day. Network horizontally. The people who are beside you at your same point in life, at your same point in your cyber journey, they are the ones studying and pursuing and striving for the same things that you want, and they might get it first. And if they get it first, they're going to reach their hand back and help bring others along with them. So, you know, it's important to not just look ahead, but to look beside you as well, because some of those people are going to have the golden nuggets, like that unfair advantage that kind of just makes you look slightly better than the other candidate. And that's the difference between getting a job sometimes.
And if you get it first, reach back and give out those golden nuggets.
Give it to someone else. Do your due diligence, all of you. Okay. So we are at the end of our talk, our time together. It's been so fun. The final takeaways, we really just, if you take nothing else away from this talk, we want you to just know that you can add value while you ramp. It can be done. My own mother did it, Mackenzie did it, I did it. You will find a way to add value no matter where you come from and no matter where you want to be. Inventory those hard and soft skills you already come with. You may have some hard skills, you may not. And identify what you bring with you. And most importantly, learn how to sell it. Learn how to talk about it. Learn how to put it in the lens of this is the problem I'm going to solve, and this is how much money I'll take to do it for you. That is the Meryl approach. That is what I recommend.
My takeaways: take up space. You know, I talked a lot about imposter syndrome, and it's just so important to realize that everybody feels that way. Even if your soft skills are all you're bringing to the table right now, own those. Those are real skills. Maybe that's coaching and motivating like Meryl and I. Maybe it's budgeting or organizing, Excel spreadsheets, you name it. Like, you do not have to be a CLI cowgirl or a pen test ninja, although it helps if you're a pen test ninja like Meryl, to occupy space in the world of cyber. There's room for everyone in this space, but you've got to claim that space and defend it. If that's on LinkedIn or if it's being active in your company's Slack channels, you've got to own that. Go for it. You know, I was underwater for weeks when I joined a zero trust team, and now I help set the cadence for our work. Meryl applied to her first technical role being massively underqualified, but she knew she could learn an upskill. We have to be our own best advocates. I've seen some comments in Slack about people just being afraid to put themselves out there and struggling with those job interviews. Like, that's really tough. And it's something you feel. You've just got to keep doing it and be your own best advocate and just tell yourself, like, I'm not going to wuss out of this. Like, I'm going to go for it. And then I think it's be flexible. Know that you're not going to be a cybersecurity analyst in your first job. Like, that takes technical.
You're not going to go from zero to pen testing. Well, one guy did. He went from cleaning pools to pen testing, but he's a unicorn. Okay, very unique. Usually you got to be something else first. I was something else first. It happens.
We're all really open. We were both really open to taking jobs that weren't the jobs that we necessarily wanted to do. We didn't really know what we wanted to do. We took the job that we could do. We took the job that would allow us to add value. And we both pivoted into spaces that have been more technical. Be flexible with how you get in. Know that the role you're in now doesn't necessarily have to be the role that you stay in.
Yeah, it's a journey. I thought I was going to go into audit. Lord.
Right. I thought I was making policy and procedure docs, right?
Yeah. But no matter what, no matter who you are today, no matter what you have, no matter who you are, as long as you identify your skills and inventory what you have and figure out how to bring it to cyber, there's a place for you here. There's a place for you in cyber. It's not for everybody, but anybody can do it. That's what I always say. Absolutely. I know we went like 2 minutes over. Thank you so much for attending our talk today.
Thanks so much.
Questions? Are there any questions we have time to answer?